What if I told you there was a film where people fainted and vomited in theaters, and it had to be banned? Naturally, you'd be curious, right? Well, that movie was The Exorcist. I'm sure most of you have heard of it, but if we were to watch it today, it might seem tame. So, what made it so terrifying that people fainted in theaters? It wasn't the visuals, but the fact that the story was claimed to be based on a real-life event. In the movie, a girl gets possessed by a demon. However, originally, this happened to a boy, and his name was kept secret for years. His identity was only known as R in the files. But when Discovery made a documentary on this, they revealed his real name, Ronald Doe. Even after his name was discovered, his appearance and whereabouts were a mystery for a long time. If you search for his name now, you'll find a picture attached to it. The horror story begins in 1949. Ronald was living in a small town in Maryland. He was very close to his aunt, Millie, who had a deep interest in spiritualism and the supernatural. Naturally, Ronald, who spent a lot of time with her, developed the same fascination. At the young age of 13, he had already learned how to use a Ouija board. But after his aunt passed away, Ronald became deeply depressed. In an attempt to contact her spirit, he used the Ouija board, and that's when things took a dark turn. A few days later, the family began hearing faint sounds of water droplets around the house. They couldn't find the source. Then the water droplets turned into scratches and knocking noises. At first, they thought it might be rats, but after investigating, they found nothing. Soon, the disturbances escalated. Furniture started moving on its own, and once, a portrait of Jesus shook violently on the wall, as if someone was banging on it from behind. Gradually, these occurrences became confined to Ronald's room. About a month after Millie's death, strange markings appeared on Ronald's body, spelling out Louis. At this point, the family realized something was seriously wrong, suspecting it was demonic. They decided to challenge the spirit's presence, which responded by violently throwing a chair across the living room. Soon after, Ronald developed burn-like marks on his body. Desperate, the family contacted a local Lutheran priest who came to pray at their house. However, after witnessing fresh markings on Ronald during the prayer, the priest suggested they consult the church, as only the church could combat such forces. The family decided to move to another town, thinking the disturbances would stay behind. But the demonic activity continued, even in their new home in St. Louis, Missouri. Finally, they reached out to the church, where they met Father Bowdern. Initially skeptical, Father Bowdern agreed to visit the family's home to ease their stress. But once there, he quickly realized this was not something ordinary. After some intense prayers, Ronald appeared calm for the first time in a long while. The next night, things took a dramatic turn. As the priests prayed over Ronald, he screamed in pain, claiming his chest hurt. When they lifted his shirt, they saw fresh red markings appearing on his chest. Shocked, the priests intensified their prayers. The rituals, lasting from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m., finally calmed Ronald, and the priests concluded this was a real case of possession, necessitating an exorcism. Father Bowdern sought permission from the church for an exorcism, and after much consideration, the church granted it on the condition that Father Bowdern document everything in his diary. What you're about to listen next are the chilling events documented by Father Bowdern over the course of the 28 days of the exorcism. Ronald was extremely violent. His father had to hold him down during the ritual. Despite being a young boy, his strength was unnatural. The boy was peaceful and slept quietly, making the priests think the prayers might be working. However, As soon as they left, Ronald started screaming again. As they continued the ritual, Ronald exhibited signs of vomiting and requested to open a window. Strangely, after a while, he appeared calm and acted normally, giving the priests false hope that the possession was over. The family thanked them, and they left. Every night, Ronald would start showing violent signs again. One night he started speaking in multiple voices, barking like a dog, and cursing at the priests. Another night, he attacked Father Bowdern, breaking his nose with a punch. Things escalated further when Ronald urinated continuously in the room, and objects moved around the house by themselves. Ronald asked for a pen and paper. He wrote, "I am the devil himself. In 10 days, I will give you a sign." Shortly after, a Roman numeral X appeared on his chest. Seeing this, the priests decided to baptize him. While it seemed to work initially, Ronald soon relapsed into violent fits of rage. The final night of the exorcism, something strange happened. As the priests entered the facility, they were overwhelmed by a strong smell of sulfur, a clear indication of a demonic presence. Ronald was sitting on the bed, laughing maniacally and speaking fluent Latin, a language he had never learned before. During the ritual, Ronald laughed and touched Father Bowdern's robe, which instantly tore into 1,000 pieces. The priests knew they were facing their worst nightmare. After hours of intense prayers, Ronald began levitating, but they had him tied down. Finally, after nearly 7 hours, Ronald screamed that he saw Saint Michael the Archangel, who had appeared with a flaming sword and cast out the devil. Suddenly, everything fell silent. After 28 harrowing days, Ronald was finally free from the demon. He slowly recovered and went on to live a normal life. However, the records of this exorcism were leaked to the media, causing great embarrassment to both Ronald and the church. Father Bowdern later expressed regret that his involvement had ruined Ronald's life. Despite the controversy, the events were later used as the basis for The Exorcist, after William Peter Blatty contacted Father Bowdern, asking if the story was true. Father Bowdern replied, "I have no doubt about it, then or now." If you'd like me to research real-life events similar to this one, feel free to leave a comment below with the event you'd like me to cover. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.